Have you ever found yourself caught in a relentless loop of self-doubt, questioning whether you're truly enough? Maybe you've even whispered to yourself that you have nothing to offer, that your presence is insignificant, or that you'll never measure up to the success others seem to effortlessly achieve. What if I told you that these very thoughts, these negative affirmations, could be the invisible chains holding you back from stepping into your full potential? What if the key to breaking free from this cycle of limitation lies in an ancient, yet incredibly relevant source of wisdom? Zen and Buddhist teachings. In today's video, we're going to embark on a journey that could shift the way you view yourself forever. We're diving deep into the three most dangerous things you can say about yourself, according to Zen teachings. These words might seem harmless, even fleeting, but their impact can be more destructive than we realize. They create invisible walls around us, limiting our growth, happiness, and true potential. But don't worry, by the end of this video, you'll not only understand why these words are so harmful, but also how to break free from them. So, if you've ever struggled with feelings of inadequacy, or if you find yourself doubting your worth, stay with us until the very end. Trust me, the insights we'll uncover will be the key to unlocking a whole new way of thinking and living. One where you can stop holding yourself back and start stepping into your true power. I encourage you to share your thoughts with us in the comments as we go along. What's the most limiting belief you've ever held about yourself? Let's start a conversation and support each other in breaking free from these mental prisons. Make sure you watch all the way through because the best insights are saved for the end. Trust me, you won't want to miss them. Let's begin this transformative journey together. The Seeker's Journey. One day, a young seeker walked into a Zen monastery. He had read many teachings, heard countless sutras, and yet he still felt lost. His mind was clouded by doubt, and his heart weighed heavy with uncertainty. He approached the master and asked, "Master, is it true that words have power?" The master smiled and gestured towards the river flowing gently behind the monastery. "Look at the water," the master said. "It flows freely, yet over time, it carves through mountains. So too do words shape the mind, the soul, and the destiny of those who speak them." The seeker felt a profound truth in the master's words, but still had questions. What words, he wondered, should one be especially mindful of? The master's answer would change his life forever. The first lesson, I am not enough. The master, with a steady hand, led the seeker to an ancient tree with roots deep in the earth. This tree does not question whether it is worthy of sunlight, the master said. It simply grows because it knows its purpose. The seeker frowned. But master, humans are different. Sometimes we feel that we are not enough. The master nodded. And that is where suffering begins. To declare I am not enough is to plant a seed of self-doubt. Every time you say it, you water that seed. It grows stronger with each approval or pity you receive from others. Your words make that seed flourish until it dominates your mind, shaping your beliefs and actions. The master told the seeker the story of a man who wanted to become a great warrior. He went to a legendary fighter and said, "Master, I am too weak and too slow. I am not enough to become a warrior." The master handed him a sword and said, "Fight as you are." For years, the man trained, always believing that he was too weak. His sword strikes were hesitant, his movements uncertain. One day, a young boy approached him, admiring his skill. "You fight well," the boy said. But the man, ever doubtful, replied, "No, I am not enough," and the boy left. The master watched all of this. "You have imprisoned yourself with your own words," he said. "If you say you are not enough, you will never be enough. And when others hear it, they will believe it too." The seeker, deeply moved, understood. So by saying I am not enough, we not only limit ourselves, but we also convince others of our limitations. "Exactly," the master replied. "The river does not say I am not strong enough to reach the ocean. It simply flows." Personal reflection on I am not enough. The concept of I'm not good enough resonates deeply with many of us. We often find ourselves questioning our worth, comparing ourselves to others, and wondering if we'll ever be able to achieve the same level of success or confidence as those we admire. These thoughts are familiar to anyone who has ever struggled with self-doubt, and I'm no exception. It's easy to look at successful, confident people and think that we could never be like them. But what if that belief is the very thing holding us back? When we focus too much on our flaws, we begin to underestimate our own potential. We convince ourselves that we're not good enough, that we're unworthy of success, and in doing so, we limit our growth. We end up trapped in a cycle of negative thinking that prevents us from seeing our own value. This self-criticism can become so ingrained in our minds that we forget to acknowledge the strengths we possess. But the truth is that our worth isn't determined by the comparisons we make with others. It's defined by our unique potential and abilities. I can remember a time when I felt completely stuck in this cycle of self-doubt. I didn't know my worth, and I couldn't believe in my own abilities. I felt like an imposter, like I was pretending to be someone I wasn't. And every time I looked around at the accomplishments of others, I thought, I'll never be able to do that. I let these feelings of inadequacy control my actions, and as a result, I didn't push myself as hard as I could have. I didn't believe that I was capable of anything more than what I had already done, and that mindset kept me from growing. It wasn't until I recognized that this self-doubt wasn't helping me that I began to make a change. I realized that by constantly telling myself that I wasn't good enough, I was only reinforcing my own limitations. This negative self-talk wasn't benefiting me, it was holding me back. I had to stop measuring my worth based on what others were doing and start acknowledging my own unique path. Every person's journey is different, and the success of others should never make us feel like we're lacking. The real turning point came when I understood that, just like a tree doesn't need external validation to grow, I didn't need the approval or comparison of others to realize my own potential. We often look for external recognition to feel validated, but that's not what truly determines our value. Our worth comes from within, from understanding that we have the ability to grow, change, and achieve. By affirming to ourselves that I am enough, we begin to free ourselves from the prison of self-doubt. We no longer have to seek validation from others because we already recognize our worth. In the end, our growth isn't dependent on the approval of others or on how we compare to their achievements. True self-worth comes from within, from embracing our unique strengths and capabilities. When we stop doubting ourselves and start believing in our inherent value, we unlock our true potential. So instead of focusing on what we lack or what we think we can't do, let's focus on what we can achieve, knowing that we are more than enough. The second lesson, I have nothing to offer. The master then led the seeker into a quiet hall filled with empty bowls. He picked up one and asked, "What do you see?" "An empty bowl," the seeker replied. The master then flipped the bowl upside down. "Is it still empty?" he asked. "Yes," said the seeker. The master then filled the bowl with tea and said, "Now it is full." People often say, "I have nothing to offer," but this is like looking at an empty bowl and forgetting that it can be filled, the master explained. No one is truly empty. Even in silence, you offer presence. Even in stillness, you offer peace. The seeker reflected deeply. But what if someone truly feels they have no worth? The master smiled gently. A man once sat under a tree, convinced he was worthless. A wise monk gave him a small stone and said, "Take this to the market and see its value." At the market, a fruit vendor offered 10 coins for the stone. The man refused. Then he went to a jeweler who offered 100 coins. But the man still refused. Finally, he took the stone to the king's palace, where the king's jeweler gasped in awe. "This is a rare gem," the jeweler said. "I will give you 10,000 coins." The man returned to the monk confused. "How is this possible?" The monk smiled and said, "The stone did not change, only the eyes that looked upon it did." Personal reflection on I have nothing to offer. The story of the stone and the river provides a profound insight into the way we perceive our own worth. Often we fail to recognize our intrinsic value, just like the stone that remains unchanged but is undervalued because it is hidden or overlooked. Our worth is not contingent upon external validation or comparison with others. It is a reflection of our own existence and unique contributions. How many times have we stayed silent, thinking we had nothing to offer? Or have we hesitated to speak or act because we assumed that someone else was more talented or more valuable? The underlying belief that we are not enough, or that we cannot make a difference is a limiting mindset that holds us back from realizing our potential. We often measure ourselves against wrong standards. Society, social media, and even our own self-criticism create benchmarks that make us feel inadequate. We look at others who seem more successful, more talented, or more confident, and we believe we don't measure up. This false comparison leads to a feeling of emptiness, of having nothing to offer. But what if we stopped measuring our worth based on these external standards and began recognizing the value in simply being ourselves? The river, flowing freely, does not compare itself to the mountain or the forest. Its mere presence nourishes and supports the earth around it, regardless of its size or force. Similarly, we have value, regardless of how we perceive ourselves in relation to others. Just like the river, our presence has value, even when we don't actively do something grand. The smallest stream nourishes the earth, feeding the soil, and sustaining life in ways we often fail to recognize. Our acts of kindness, our smiles, and our presence, though they may seem small, are like those raindrops that feed the thirsty soil. In our everyday interactions, we have the ability to make a difference, even if it is not immediately apparent. A single kind word can brighten someone's day. A quiet gesture of support can provide comfort in times of need, and simply showing up can offer encouragement to others. We often underestimate our potential to contribute, but when we begin to see our own value, others will see it too. Just as the river carves its path over time, our small actions accumulate, creating ripples of change. We are part of a larger flow, and even the smallest ripples matter. When we embrace the idea that we have something to offer, whether it's our kindness, our presence, or our perspective, we start to shift our own mindset and influence those around us. In recognizing that our value is not defined by comparison, we open ourselves up to a more authentic way of living. The stone, despite being overlooked, holds its place in the world as part of the landscape. We too, regardless of how we may feel at times, have a place in the world that is significant. Our worth is not diminished by others' achievements or by the size of our contributions. It is in the simple act of being that we begin to make a difference. When we accept our own value, we free ourselves from the constraints of self-doubt and comparison, and this in turn allows us to offer more of ourselves to the world. The lesson here is clear. We all have something to offer. We are not defined by what we have or don't have. We are defined by who we are. By simply being present, showing kindness, or offering a smile, we contribute to the world in ways that matter. So the next time you find yourself thinking you have nothing to offer, remember the river, remember the raindrop, and remember that even the smallest things have the power to nourish and sustain the world around us. We all matter, and we all have something valuable to offer. The third lesson, I will never change. The master then took the seeker to a stream where he pointed to a rock resting in the water. This rock has been here for centuries, unchanged, the master said, but the water moves on, shaping the land. Which do you think truly lives? The water, the seeker replied without hesitation. Then why do people say, I will never change? The master asked. The seeker pondered this. Perhaps because they fear change, he said. To declare that you will never change is to resist the natural flow of life, the master said. If a tree refuses to change, it will never bear fruit. If the seasons refuse to change, there will be no harvest. Change is life itself. Personal reflection on I will never change. The phrase I will never change is a common thought that many of us hold on to when faced with the discomfort of growth or when we feel overwhelmed by the challenges of life. It is a defense mechanism, a way of protecting ourselves from the uncertainty that change often brings. We convince ourselves that who we are is fixed, that we are defined by our past experiences, habits, and personality traits. This belief often stems from fear. Fear of failure, fear of the unknown, or fear of stepping out of our comfort zones. But the truth is, change is not only inevitable, it is also an essential part of life's natural rhythm. It is the heartbeat of existence, constantly moving, evolving, and transforming everything it touches. When we resist change, we inadvertently shut ourselves off from the possibility of growth. We cling to what is familiar, even if it no longer serves us, because the unknown feels uncomfortable and unsafe. I remember a time in my own life when I held onto the belief that I couldn't change. I resisted stepping into new opportunities, fearing that I might not succeed or that I might fail in front of others. It was easier to stay in my comfort zone, even though it was no longer fulfilling. I was afraid of failing, of losing control, and of confronting the parts of myself that needed to evolve. However, when I finally allowed myself to embrace change, I saw things differently. I began to understand that change is not an enemy to be feared, but an ally to be welcomed. Change provides us with the opportunity to break free from old patterns and limitations that no longer serve our highest good. It's an invitation to evolve, to challenge ourselves, and to become the best version of who we are meant to be. When we resist change, we are also resisting the natural flow of life, which is always moving forward, always seeking new opportunities and experiences. Over time, I realized that embracing change was the key to unlocking new levels of personal growth and transformation. Change is not about losing ourselves. It's about discovering new parts of ourselves that we didn't know existed. It's about stepping into new possibilities, facing challenges with courage, and evolving into someone who is more adaptable, resilient, and capable of navigating the uncertainties of life. I learned that growth doesn't come from staying in the same place or doing the same things over and over again. It comes from embracing the unknown, taking risks, and being open to the process of transformation. One of the most empowering things I've learned is that change is not a one-time event. It's a continuous process. Life is constantly presenting us with new challenges, experiences, and opportunities that push us to evolve. If we hold on to the belief that I will never change, we close ourselves off from the potential of what we can become. We limit our growth and keep ourselves trapped in a cycle of stagnation. But when we embrace change, we open ourselves up to the full spectrum of life's possibilities. It's important to recognize that change doesn't always have to be dramatic or sudden. Sometimes change happens in small, subtle ways. It might be a shift in perspective, a change in habits, or a new approach to solving a problem. Each of these small changes contributes to our overall growth and development. The key is to remain open, flexible, and willing to adapt as life unfolds. It's about trusting that we are capable of handling whatever comes our way, and knowing that, no matter what, we will continue to grow and evolve. In the end, change is not something that happens to us. It's something that we can choose to embrace. We have the power to shape our lives by our willingness to adapt, to learn, and to step into the unknown with courage and confidence. The belief that I will never change only holds us back from reaching our full potential. But when we embrace the reality of change, we allow ourselves to grow, to improve, and to become the person we were always meant to be. Conclusion: the power of words and transformation. The seeker, sitting by the river, suddenly realized the depth of the master's lessons. The words we speak shape our lives. When we say, "I am not enough," we lock ourselves in a mental prison of doubt. When we say, "I have nothing to offer," we blind ourselves to our own value. And when we say, "I will never change," we halt our growth, refusing to embrace the natural flow of life. However, the opposite is also true. We can change everything simply by changing our words. Try saying, "I am enough." Believe in your worth and recognize your value. "I have something to offer." Realize that your presence already makes a positive impact on the world. "I can change." Open yourself to limitless possibilities and trust that growth is always within reach. The seeker gazed at the flowing river, and for the first time in his life, he felt freedom, the freedom from the limitations he had created for himself. That was the moment he realized all he needed to do was change the way he viewed himself and the world around him. What about you? Are the words you say to yourself holding you back? Please share your thoughts and feelings in the comments. I'd love to hear your story. If you found value in this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on more deep lessons. Let's change the way we think and live, breaking free from old limitations to move toward a brighter future.